Hey guys, Becky here, FiveTwoBaker. Welcome back. This week I'll be sharing with you how I make this beautiful dinner plate dahlia. This dahlia has more movement and more wave to each of the petals, and I love it so much for that. So hopefully you guys really enjoy this one too. All right, to start off, this is the plan. This is what we'll be following, and the reason I'm putting this right here is because all the steps that I share with you for the smallest size petals, we will again repeat for the medium size and the large size. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a cheat sheet ahead of time in case you're wondering if there is a whole lot of difference, and there just really is not. Also, when you watch the video, you'll notice that I have far more petals than I have listed here in number, and that is because I am making multiple dahlias at once for an upcoming cake. This number here is just for one flower, so multiply it out as many times as you need for each flower, and also take into consideration that if you want it fuller, this is not set in stone. You can add more petals to each size or decrease them. It's all up to you. This is just to give you something to start with. Starting off with your 18 gauge carrier wire, go ahead and make a little hook on the end and then dip that hook into some edible glue and wipe off the excess. Then with a small piece of gum paste, just a little ball, go ahead and make a teardrop shape and insert the hook wire into the fatter end of the teardrop shape and pinch it to the wire to secure it. You want to make sure that this center is completely dry before you move on to the next steps, because it's going to hold a lot of petals, and so you don't want it falling off of the wire. Now, starting with the smallest size petals, using flower paste in the color of your choice, go ahead and roll it out as thin as you are comfortable with. The thinner the better, because you don't need to worry about using wires. Everything will be glued, and it just gives a more realistic look if you can make it thinner. Go ahead and pop out as many petals as you'd like. I usually do between 20 and 30 of the smallest petals for one flower if I'm going for a full center. And then pop each petal into your veiner. Give it a good press and then put it aside onto your foam board to thin out the edges just a bit. Once you're ready, using a small rolling ball tool, go ahead and roll the edges of each petal, keeping your rolling ball tool half on and half off of the petal. And you want to apply enough pressure to give it a wave, not so much pressure that you rip through it and create a bunch of crinkles. So it's an in-between amount of pressure. Once you have them all rolled that way, and you can roll some up, some down, some on one side, some on both sides, give each petal a bit of variety if you can. Once you're done with that part, go ahead and grab 3 or 4 petals and attach them with edible glue to the center teardrop that you made earlier. Again, making sure that your center teardrop is completely dry at this point. What you want is to completely cover the center so that you don't see any of that supporting teardrop. Go ahead and press it nicely, and then we'll move on. Working quickly, what we're going to do is, using a toothpick, we're going to help it guide us in making a bit of a cone shape at the bottom of the petal. We just rolled the petal sides around the toothpick to form a little cone at the bottom and use some edible glue to stick it. It doesn't have to be a perfect cone. Some sides you can roll to the left, other to the right, again to give it some variety in how the petal is going to move, and then you just add some edible glue and pop it off. You go ahead and do this for all of the petals. It's going to give it the different movement, but it's also going to create that volume so that the petals don't just stick on top of each other. They have that spacer from the cone. Once you have them all in their cone shape, then go ahead and start adding them to the center. At this point, if they're still a little soft, you can use the toothpick to help press it against the center of your flower so that you don't risk squashing the entire petal. With this, the biggest thing that I look for is just making sure that it looks a little bit wild in the center. I like my petals going in slightly different directions. I like some being tighter in the cone and some a bit looser. Some go a little twisted to the side, some are just slightly higher than others. I enjoy that a lot, so I look to try to do that in the center of my petals. And then I just go ahead and stick them around and around until I'm out of petals or until I'm happy with how full the center looks. At this point, I'll go ahead and hang it upside down to dry so that no petals begin to slide off, and I go ahead and work on the medium-sized petals. For the medium-sized petals, if you're not sure if the size that you're using is right, just go ahead and press it against what you currently have and see if it looks like a natural transition to another size. You'll follow the exact same process, stamp them all out using the cutter, pop them into your veiner, and then after they're veined, you go ahead with a medium rolling ball tool and give each petal its own ruffle and wavy movement. Once they all have their own wavy movement, go ahead and with the toothpick again, go ahead and roll the base of the petal around and glue the other side to it. And then set it off to firm up just a little bit. Because these are larger, you don't want them flopping around. But the nice thing is, because you're getting larger, now you'll see more of the movement that you didn't get in the smallest sized petals. So feel free to go ahead and put them on a wavy foam board also to encourage more of that movement, and feel free to use your fingers and your hands to twist them up just a little bit more if you want them to be a little more wild. The gluing process here is the same. You just add some glue to the base of it and then go around and in between any petals that you already have, begin to add your new petals. This way then they are overlapping and not layered. Always using your toothpick if you need to give a bit more pressure to put your petal onto the center without squishing the cone that you made. And you go ahead and go all around the dahlia this way. Whatever looks right and feels right, that's what you do. This is what we have at this point. It's super cute, but I want it bigger, so I'm going to set it off to dry upside down and make an even larger petal next. Again, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to cut them out, pop them in the veiner, and then using a larger rolling ball tool, I'm going to give more movement to each of these petals. I'll go ahead and again use a toothpick to roll and form the little cone at the bottom center, but with each size that I go bigger, my petals are able to have more movement, and so I really encourage that by forming them so that they fan out a bit more, they look more open, they're a little more twisted, all of that. Now these are still soft enough to move and to manipulate, but they're not so soft that they're going to flop over, and that's the point where I really like working with them. To speed up the process, I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on my hand and then just dip it there and pop it on. I don't make flowers for anyone else. They're not going on anyone's food, so I'm okay with doing this for tutorials. I follow the same process of just going ahead and filling in any gaps that I see and periodically checking to make sure that it looks good to me and I'm comfortable with how the flower is looking. And this is where we're at right now with 3 size petals. I think it looks really pretty, so I'm gonna set it off to dry upside down. And that's it. Here they go dry. If you wanted to, you could add more dust to them. You can always add leaves and calyx and all of that, but I'll leave it here for now. I think this is long enough. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. I would super appreciate that. And if you have any questions or comments, please do drop them down below and I'll make sure to get back to you. If not, I will see you guys for the next tutorial.